So we got in our AN line for our radiator hose. Now, I'm hoping this thing will bend, which has got a pretty good bend right there, because remember we got to go around that bottom issue we're having with trying to get the bottom line down there tied in. This is eBay stuff straight from China. I know a lot of y'all are not going to be happy about that. It's pretty flexible, but I've already noticed like it stabbed me because it actually has wire in it, which I am actually impressed with. So what it looks like is, yeah, there's a wire inside. What it looks like is there's a wire it made into the rubber for extra strength, I guess. So it seems like a pretty good product at first glance. I don't know. Some people are probably like, boy, that thing gonna blow up. So we'll see. That's what I wanted. I didn't want to pay an arm and a leg for this stuff. The stuff local here in the US was just absolutely crazy. This is like 3 feet of line, and the price difference from this from China, 3 feet of line, is like 1/3 of what it costs here in America. So I just can't do it. I don't know if the stuff in America, American made stuff, is maybe a little bit more flexible. I don't know, dude. This stuff bends pretty freaking good. I wonder how much it'll bend before it kinks. Let's see. And that metal could be to help it from kinking. So it still isn't kinked right there. There's still no kink. It's starting to flatten right there. I can feel it starting to flatten. I don't know if you can see it. You can kind of see it starting to flatten right there. So that makes a pretty good bend. I bet if you put a little bit of heat to it, that it'd probably bend even better. We'll see if that works. I just went ahead and ordered out of China the other week, like I said, and waited on it because I knew we had plenty of time. And I went ahead and ordered these fittings while I was also at it from China. So let's see here. So here's one of the fittings. When you start buying these fittings in America, American made, I guess. I don't even think half of them are American made. Like, there are companies that make them American made, but even if you've got stuff located in the US, it's just been imported by somebody else. I'm not gonna unscrew it all the way, but feels like a pretty decent quality, like whatever this brand is. You know it's cheap if it has the word speed in it. So radiator lines, boring stuff, but that hopefully will finish us up. I ordered the, let's see here. I ordered the dash 12 that's going to come from here to here. This line is for here to here. That's our priority first. And then our second priority is to do that connection down there, to get that connection down there figured out that we already have fittings for. These lines, man, I mean, this thing it's big, dude. Like, what is these things? 1.25 inches? I have to measure it real fast. It's a dash 20 fitting. These things, I mean, you can probably just tell from the hand. They're stout. They're stout. Like, you're gonna work this thing. So let's see. They measure out to be 1.5 inches. So, man, it's a big line, man. It's tough to work. It's tough to work. So got this piece on, got this one all on. I mean, you really, to do these pieces, you really have to fight with it. I really want to just go upstairs and be done for tonight. That one up in there is kind of like a pain in the butt because there's nowhere to turn the wrench, but I got it tight. So this one is not really touching the throttle body. So this one, as you can see, is not touching the throttle body. I know it looks like it is. And then on your bracket, it is not touching the bracket either. It's barely clearing, but it is not touching the bracket. So that's how them are gonna be. And it's not really, it's got a slight, kink right there, but I mean, it's not an aggressive turn. but it's slightly squished a little right there. But I know once this thing gets some heat flowing through it with some hot water, that should open right up, and this line should form itself pretty much to the way that it is now. So we ended up ordering a 45 because we were going to go 45, 45, and connect. The problem is when you do 45, it shoots it over here. And then when you do 45 over here, it shoots it over here. So it didn't work out quite as I was thinking it was in my head. I was thinking in my head that I could easily just kind of do like that. But then that would have put two of these squished areas in there kind of. So it worked out better to use one of our 90s, kick it this way so it just flows, and you have to clear your charge pipe. So you can see now with the charge pipe in here, I don't know how it clears it. That does suck up tight for anybody seeing that gap, but she clears. So I'm gonna put the sensor right in here for the air to fuel or air temperature sensor. I need to actually take a marker and make sure that I am down low enough for tomorrow. So all I'm gonna do is just come underneath here and roughly mark the bottom. She's gonna be right there, and then we'll do a cross pattern. That way we'll know roughly where to weld the bung at when we weld it tomorrow. And for that sensor we went over it in another video, but we ordered these bungs. We're gonna have to cut some of this bung down so it doesn't intrude inside the pipe. But we'll get Mike to weld that all together tomorrow so that our charge pipes, so our hot and our cold side, will all be finished hopefully. So I think that's gonna be it for up here for tonight. Man, that's a tight, I mean, they're definitely probably gonna rattle on each other. They're really close. They're probably gonna, I don't know. Once this gets a little heat through it, it should form a lot better. But we are going to move on down here and take a peek down here and see if I need to order anything else or how I'm gonna possibly do this one down here. All right, I don't know if y'all can tell in the time lapse, but these things take some freaking force, man. And I know they're not seated all the way up, but it's in there. Like, it's in there stupid tight. So much force that I have 2 rags in the vise. So what I do is I put 2 rags in my vise. Now, you can actually purchase vise jaw protectors, but all I do is I use 2 rags doubled up. Basically, that one slipped down when I pulled it out, but basically you just double them up. And I'm using so much force that you could actually see where it has squished the rag, like really good. So, I mean, I'm cranking on these things. I broke a sweat. After this, I'm done for tonight. I mean, you can see it doesn't really damage the line, but that's the green fibers out of the towel. I mean, I put some freaking force to these things. So they're definitely pinched in there. I don't think they're gonna leak, y'all. I really don't. I know somebody eventually is probably gonna comment that they will, but the amount of force that is biting down on these things right now is unreal. And I'm sure after you run them for a little while, you could easily take them out and, you know, after they form a little bit and re-tighten them up. It might even be nice to, like, if you put these in boiling hot water or something before you did it, maybe, but this thing is freaking stout. So I just kind of wanted to show y'all that in case you didn't see it on the live or the time lapse, just the amount of force that it took to snug these things down, because it's a really tight, strong fit. It's definitely not loose and sloppy or nothing like that. So, and that gap is just, it's equal on all of them. And I ran my hose up to the bottom of the thread with about that same of a gap. So maybe if I would have moved the hose down more, I could have got that all the way. But then you're losing engagement of the hose inside the thread that's inside the end of the fitting. So I watched a couple other guys on YouTube who also had gaps in theirs when they were doing this big of a line for the screw-on type fittings. So I'm going to roll with it. We're going to put it in there. I think we'll be perfectly fine. If we're not, it's not that big of a deal. We can easily take them out and fix them. So I'm going to cut this tape off right here that I left around. I always leave some tape around the nylon part of it, so when you're threading that on, you can you know, it doesn't hang up and take your edges off. And to put these on, if you've seen, I basically, when I put this nut on, I put it against the counter, and then I force this in there as much as you can and try to wiggle it. But you also have to take this, and while you're pushing it on, you're holding the hose. And so while you're pushing the hose on, take your wrench with your other hand, as you see me doing, and turn the nut. So you're pushing the hose into the nut, and then you're turning the nut to help thread the nut down the hose, or the hose into the nut, whatever you want to say. Once you get all that done, all I did was take Vaseline to lube up the actual piece that goes inside the hose and the threads, get it started, have this in your vise, and then just thread this into there. And the tighter, I mean, the closer this gets, the tighter it gets and the more extreme it gets, to where you'll be practically flexing your whole workbench. But that's how I assemble mine. So I'm gonna cut this very carefully, cut the rest of this tape back, and then put it in the car. Trying to work and get some stuff done, and the wife is upstairs sending me pictures of a Ferrari, and she knows I'm a Ferrari nut, that like I really want one day. I've already owned a Maserati, was in love with the Maserati, but I really want a Ferrari. And she's sending me pictures while I'm trying to work of one that they were loading in a container today, one of them containers you see at the ports. So they're putting this Ferrari in there to send it overseas. Distracting the mess out of me. Got this bottom radiator hose in right here. Let me flip you around and show you what I'm working with. So there is how it comes down out of our water pump. Worked out perfect with our 45, and then it swoops around. I'm gonna explain the clamps here in a minute. Swoops around to a 90. So let's go underneath here and I'll show you. So there's your 45, comes out your water pump. There's where she swoops around, and she goes back into the radiator with a 90. So because this bend was so like kind of tight, you know, it comes from here and goes to here, the hose was kind of wanting to, you know, squish like this, okay? Basically like this, squish like this, bending it. So what I'm gonna do, this is all perfectly round right here, all the way up to here. And then coming up there, coming out, you know, a little ways is round, but then that's where it starts to squish, is in this bend. So what I'm gonna do overnight is I have got these clamps on here so that it puts it back pretty much round, and I'm just gonna leave them on here for the next 24 hours. And just, this garage gets kind of warm during the day because I turned the AC off. The AC's on right now, but I turned the AC off obviously during the day. So I'm just gonna let nature and, you know, the heat in here with these clamps kind of do their thing, and come out here and take the clamps off tomorrow. And I'm thinking that it won't want to squish this way no more, because it will have took its form to its new thing. Now, and my theory is that when the hot water runs through this, once the car gets cranked up initially, that it will form itself and they'll be fine. But I don't want the opposite to happen and it be slightly collapsed, and then when the hot water runs through it, it gets soft and finishes collapsing. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these clamps on it now, see if I can get it to pretty much be right cold. And if it pretty much is right cold, then I have a gut feeling that whenever the hot water runs through it, that we will be perfectly fine. And what I'll probably do is, after I get done with the clamps down there, I'll probably come up here and put 2 clamps right here in this bend to kind of straighten this one out. So I'm very happy with how these turned out. So far, I would highly recommend these pieces. This kit for this line is like $31. If anybody's interested, I can definitely get you the link on the Facebook page or in the comments. You know, it's like $31 for these, for the line, if you get it out of China. Now, it took like a month, but that's not terrible. When you're building a car, you got plenty of other stuff to do. And then the fittings, I think, were like $20 to $30 each. So they're not bad. They do make kits for like $130 with like 3 feet of 20-20A inline and your fittings, which 3 feet, as you can see, is enough to do your average upper and lower radiator hose and have a little bit left over. But I found out if you sourced it individually, because I'm a big bargain shopper, that I could get my fittings and my line a little bit cheaper if I pieced everything together. And it worked out perfect, because like I said, I thought I needed a 90 and a 90, and actually I ended up needing a 45, 90, 90, 45. So it worked out perfect to have 2 90s and 2 45s. At least we got the radiator lines installed and made up. Hopefully that will help somebody else, if they're thinking about doing AN radiator lines in your car, dude, you can do it. You can do it for a fair price. It's not that bad. I might have, let's see here, I should have around 200 bucks in both lines, if that. It's probably a touch below 200. Definitely would recommend the AN adjustable wrench, because that makes a world of a difference. It's nice if you can just buy the actual wrench size. The adjustable wrench does have some play in it. Wherever it went, I was down there on the floor. It does have some play in it when you start putting a lot of pressure on it, but it got the job done. And I just, you know, that's the adjustable wrench I use. It has, you know, the sizes on it. So I had turned that in a little, but you could pretty much put it right on the money and it will, you know, open all the way up to 20. You just have to make sure you order one that opens all the way from this opens from a 3 all the way to a 20. So this is perfect for me working on my car. If I was doing a little bit more professional, I'd probably just buy a kit, but you can't beat the price of one of these little adjustable wrenches versus buying all the individual wrenches or kit. But the individual solid ones, you would get better results, not have quite as much play as you do in this one, but this one will get the job done off eBay. I can also get y'all the link if anybody needs a link for this. All right, so we got a few things in the mail we're going to try to get on this afternoon. So first off, these little guys. So they're gonna go in the bottom of the Holley intake. The Holley intake, from what I'm picking up online, actually has like basically a British pipe thread or British national thread or something. I don't remember. I Googled it, I looked it up. I ordered that thread converted to this thread, which is 1/8 NPT. Got that because we are going to put in the push connect fittings, the 90s, underneath the bottom of the intake for our boost reference. So one will go to the fuel pressure regulator and the other one will go to the blow-off valve. So I'm still waiting for the plastic lines to come in for that. But I would like to possibly this afternoon go ahead and try to get my hand underneath there and take these off. Told y'all that I was going to put the intake back on, but I bet you that some way it was going to bite me in the butt. And sure enough, I didn't even think about the lines needing to go in the bottom of the intake. That's the inexperienced side of me with building a motor. I didn't even think about it. So I'm really trying not to unhook all of that stuff again. If I have to, I'd rather take the throttle body off and run my hands way back there with a ratcheting wrench and try to do it like that versus pulling I mean, you got to unhook the fuel lines, you got to unhook you got to pull up the fuel rails. Like, I'm not trying to do all that again. So hopefully I can fight with this thing and get these in there. Got this little guy, which is a 3/8 barb bulkhead connector. So like I said, I'm going to run the coolant overflow through the floor, so I might mess with that. And I'm still battling alternator belts. So the one that we had got that was 38 5/8 would go on there, but that was with the tensioner sprung all the way open. So basically the tensioner had no tension on it because the belt was slightly too big. So they couldn't get anything at O'Reilly's that was near that besides a 37 7/8. So we're going from 38 to 5/8 down to 37 7/8, and I'm praying that this one is enough because this is like my 5th belt. Thank God I did not. There's no eBay with this. This is something you go ahead and just buy local, so that if it don't fit, obviously you can take it back. Got in our other AN line, our last AN line for our coolant system. So I measured and really hope that this thing is the correct length and the correct fittings and all that on it. And really hope that this thing works because I don't want to buy another one. It defeats the purpose of buying good deals if you have to keep buying them. So supposedly I think this is a Brown & Miller. Let's see here. Yes, Brown & Miller Racing line. So it's a real nice piece. Man, from my measurements, this thing doesn't have a 1/2 inch to spare. So I'm going to try to get this thing in real fast and pray that it fits and that we don't need longer, because the next size that was available used was like way too long. Like, it was not going to work. So let me try to get a couple of these things together and see what I can get done for tonight.